Welcome to the Tearing It Up podcast. I'm your host, Taryn. We'll be tearing it up, tearing it down, and tearing it apart, dissecting all things related to those who deviate from the standard. From leaders of their industry to leaders of mediocrity, and maybe a gear review or two thrown in. We shoot the shit and let the conversations flow, so if that's not your style, this may not be for you. Otherwise, listen in. Hope to light a fire in you somehow. Hello, everybody. This is going to be a fun episode because, well, I'm on the road, so that's fun for me. I'm at a rest stop in Idaho right now, recording with Amber and our guest, Katie Hawkins, today, which I'm really stoked to have on because we have a bit of a different conversation today that we haven't dove into, like these topics in depth, and definitely not with somebody who has the knowledge that Katie has, being that an election is right around the corner, like weeks away. We have Katie Hawkins here, who I met in Truckee through the store that I worked at for years. I'm sure that's how. Sometimes I start to forget, like, how do I know this person? I just know them. But she also hails from the Pacific Northwest, so that's just a really cool commonality that we have. And now we're both in Truckee, set up there. She works for the Outdoor Alliance. So what we're going to talk about today has to do with outdoor policy. So don't worry if you got a little bit scared there for a second, like, oh no, a political conversation. I think a lot of you out there will have a strong interest in what we're talking about today because we're talking about something we all love, which is recreating outside. We're going to get some really great insight from Katie on just policies and things that we can do in our own areas to get involved and keep the places that we loved to enjoy safe and accessible. So Katie, I'm going to turn it over to you now. Give us a little intro where you're at physically in the world right now.
Yeah, well, first, thanks, Taryn. Thanks, Amber, for having me on. And also, thank you for providing the space for listeners in the community. It's of huge value, and I'm just honored to be here. So thanks for having me.
Of course.
I am calling in from Truckee, California this morning. And the sun is just coming up, and it's going to be a beautiful fall day here. But as Taryn mentioned, I'm originally from the Northwest suburb of Seattle, and I think, and Taryn kind of hit it, it's unique that her and I are in these same spaces because I think we were drawn for similar reasons, but I can't underscore the importance of growing up in the Northwest and how that's woven into me, every thread. I haven't lived in Seattle for almost 20 years, but you wouldn't know by the way that I love my Seattle Seahawks. I love coffee, Pearl Jam.
Yes.
But I love highly caffeinated women in the morning. It's so nice. And then we're here in the Sierra Nevada, in the heart of the Sierra Nevada mountains. And it's just two special places. So I'm excited that Tara and I are able to connect on that level.
Yes, it's amazing. I mean, the Northwest just sticks in your heart and soul. I feel like I'm sure everyone feels that way about where they're from and where they live and have these biased opinions, but I'm right there with you. Like all the Seahawks, any Mariners, all the Northwest and coffee is just ingrained in me, the salt water, everything.
Yeah. And, that's really where I got my start in the outdoor industry. I grew up skiing at Crystal Mountain Snoqualmie Summit and was a ski instructor in high school. And then everyone was in a rush to go get a job in downtown Seattle. And I was like, no, I think I just got to do what I know how to do. And that was to sell gear. And so I spent, after college, I went and worked at a gear shop, tuning skis, being on a retail floor, and really kind of honing in on those customer service and just that strong work ethic. And, you got to get things done because you're a small team, you're working for a small business owner. And that really hasn't left me. And I kind of bring that mentality into everything I do. And Karen and I, we talked about this kind of in the pre-work, is it's all about people, right? And relationships. And how I got to Northern California was relationships. I had just built some friendships with folks within the outdoor community, some reps, and there was an opportunity, and I took it. And that got me in the industry, having worked my way over almost 20 years for brands such as Gregory Mount Products, Marmot Mountain, and Black Diamond Equipment. And was fortunate enough to lead global sales teams. And that's kind of where this all kind of came from, was just really the start of customer service, being on a retail floor, folding apparel and taking out trash and working events.
I love that. It's truly like a bottom up kind of story, because if you look at it today, like you look at, okay, Katie Hawkins is here in outdoor policy for working for the Outdoor Alliance, your brain would probably automatically think like, okay, I don't know, law school, like, or all environmentalism, like all these things, just going from like serious to more serious type thing. And it's one thing that we try to ingrain in people, and like why we want to share stories is that you don't have to follow this path that goes from A, B, C, D, blah, blah, blah. Like you can create your own. I mean, it's not that you started in a gear shop thinking like, this is going to lead me to outdoor policy one day. It sounds like you just let the road kind of take you where it took you. And you started to just explore more, doors opened or ideas opened in your mind that you're like, you know what, I do want to explore that over there. So I'm going to kind of make my way that direction. Before we get too into like the big transition there, I'm wondering, as we know you were working in a gear shop younger there in the Seattle area, what did you do as a kid, like in the outdoors? What were your like main activities or sports or whatnot that kind of really got the outdoors started for you?
Yeah, great question. I think again, it's the towering pine trees, right? Like there is nothing, and I know how fortunate we are to have grown up in the Northwest and be able to walk out the door and see, these towering evergreen pine trees. And it was really that connection to nature. And I know a lot of folks don't have those experiences, but in the Northwest, it's kind of like all is Douglas firs and seeing glimpses of Mount Rainier if you're lucky on a clear day, and it's really those moments that fueled I think my passion and my energy for the outdoors.
And then I know you mentioned too, when we met up for coffee and kind of chatted a bit before we came onto the recording, that you made a comment about going to California when you were young and feeling like that was the place you were going to end up. Can you tell us about that experience and what that was? What were you doing down there, or anything that struck you that was like, I need to be down here?
I think I was just called to the Sierra Nevada, and I remember, and again, I'm dating myself, but it was like almost 40 years ago. We were on a family vacation, and I saw Lake Tahoe, and I saw the Sierra Nevada mountains, and and that was my motivation for my career. It was like, how do I get as close as I can to Lake Tahoe? And but that didn't come easy. Like I moved a lot. I moved for work. But it was, in the most chaotic times in my life, I would come up here and just sleep in the dirt and feel centered. There's something about this beautiful area. It's been transformative for me. And now I feel, again, super lucky to, live here. I have two small boys, and they're thriving here, and they're experiencing this magical place.
I love it. I mean, it's a tricky question because you can't really explain, why you've been called to something or some place, even if it was an exact like moment or experience of, I went camping here or whatever, and I just never wanted to leave whatever that is. There's still this underlying like just energy that you can't put words to sometimes in your life, and things that you connect to. So I love that just stuck with you for so long though, and then you did end up there. And so you mentioned too, becoming like from working on the sales floor, folding shirts and getting to know reps, making your way up into global sales teams. Where was that transition for you in wanting to get involved in policy more and like making a difference there from like the very simplest aspect?
Yeah, great question. Um, the outdoor industry, and again, being fortunate enough to know folks, it was in 2013 we have these economic numbers of the economic impact of outdoor recreation. And prior to that, folks would go to DC, but it wasn't like this coordinated effort, but also too, data is king, right? And meeting with lawmakers and showing the economic impact in their communities of what outdoor recreation means and the ripple effects. And so it was around that time these offices of outdoor recreation were popping up all over the country, Utah being first, and then Colorado. And I was the national sales manager at Marmot, and they asked me to come to Sacramento and help, because at the time we were trying to advocate for an office of outdoor recreation in California. And Taryn, I was 7 months pregnant, walking around Sacramento, advocating for outdoor recreation. And it was like one of those experiences where it's, showing up, being prepared, and meeting with lawmakers and really doing storytelling. I mean, that's what you and Amber do. That's what I do, meeting with lawmakers. But I did that, meeting with, small business owners and specialty outdoor retailers, is, talking about the gear and the storytelling and building those relationships. And it was really with being pregnant and the birth of my first son that I was like, none of this gear matters if we don't have anywhere to use it and access nature. And it's and at that time, you kind of have an imposter syndrome, like you said, like I didn't go to law school. Although right now my friends are like, you should make up that you're a lawyer. And I was like, no, that's not a good thing to make up. But no, true. One of my girlfriends was like, "Oh, you went to Gonzaga, didn't you?" And I was like, "Yeah, I did." No, I didn't go to Gonzaga. But I mean, that kind of just stuck with me, right? Like, it doesn't matter how many nano puffies that I sell, right? Like, if it's not warm, or excuse me, if it's warm in December, no one needs that, that puffy jacket, right? Like, and why am I selling all these rain jackets when it's not raining anymore? So again, I just was curious and took some chances to meet people and just, show up and, be a value to folks, selling this message about the importance of outdoor recreation and the importance of representation in government.
The fact that what kind of crossed your mind was, why am I selling this gear if we're not going to have a place to use it, is just a huge kind of, it blows my mind. Like, yeah, wow, really good question. It's like, I don't know if I've thought of it that way. I'm sure I have when it comes to jackets or anything, right? It's like, okay, I know I talk a lot about the gear I use and whatnot and how I run, I don't need like this insulated boot or super like heavy jacket, and Tahoe just isn't that cold. Yes, we get a lot of snow, but it's not like in the teens or negatives or anything like the Midwest or whatnot. And that does make me think too, though, of like, wow, there's still times in, November, December that it's still so warm. I'm barely using any gear. We're barely getting out in the snow. That like those questions coming into my mind when purchasing gear. I'm like, I don't really need this like super 3-layered Gore-Tex jacket because it just doesn't rain here or it's not wet. It's like, wow, the fact that those questions can arise just opens our eyes so much more. All the things happening in the world, climate change, all the hurricanes, everything, again, something we talked about a little bit before recording. It's like, what did you say? I loved what you said about it. Climate change isn't bipartisan.
Yeah. Climate change doesn't matter how you vote, where you live. And, this last month we've seen, unfortunately, 2 hurricanes wipe out, cities that shouldn't have been are in hurricane areas. And, hurricane, climate change, I think for so long folks have been like, oh, it's just knocking at our door. No, it's not. It's at our kitchen table.
Yeah.
Catastrophic wildfires, record-setting temperatures, sea level rise, and now these hurricanes, right? It's so that's why now it's time, right? We need to be bold. And I think for me, for so long, I felt like I needed to be, have permission to come into this space, but I don't think anyone needs permission, right? Mm-hmm. And we talked about that earlier. Is I think talking about politics and voting is kind of a taboo conversation, but it really isn't. Mm-hmm. And when we're talking about climate, I mean, climate's affecting everyone, and it's not about just selling gear. It's again, entire communities have been demolished this last month. FEMA has spent their entire budget for a year in a matter of 8 days.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's insane. And I said that it is bipartisan, right? Meaning that no matter what party you subscribe to, this topic matters for all. So with these thoughts coming in your head as you're like working for this brand and realizing why am I doing this if we're not going to have a place to use this gear to recreate in for all sorts of different reasons, what was the next step in kind of making that leap to being able to make a difference? Like, how did you go from working with brands getting into, was the Outdoor Alliance your very next step, like getting involved with them? Or tell us a little bit about that storyline.
No, it's, you got to show up, right? And you got to form these relationships. And so there was, several years that I was volunteering for the local nonprofit, right? And the lead dog for the backcountry community here in the region. And it was there that I started to meet people, meet with lawmakers, and see some significant wins for funding, for things. And we talked about this is like, why is my trailhead not getting plowed? Oh, because you need money to plow because it's on, so it's like you start to understand the different agencies and the jurisdiction. And it was like during that time, I figured out, outdoor recreation is, and having access to nature, it isn't partisan, right? It's bipartisan. Everyone connects to nature in a different way, whether it's, off-road, mountain biking, horsebacking, hiking, or even having a picnic, right? Like we can all think about some of those times in our lives and how we connected to outdoor recreation and how other people recreate and appreciate that. And so, and this country has a long history of public lands and waters. And so it is one of those things I think that has defined who we are as Americans and is actually something that we can do together to build, right? That's not divisive right now. I mean, we all can vote for access to nature and agree on, certain policies or issues, right? Because it doesn't matter how you recreate, you just want to recreate. So if we can find those commonalities, it can help unite us. And so it was like during that time I found that out. And again, I think people that are wanting to make the switch to a different side of their career, like I went from global sales to advocacy. Like you couldn't, like, who does that? Like what? And sorry, but it was one of those things that I had known some people from Outdoor Alliance because in my industry days, grant some money, throw on some product. And, I went from being like managing, one of the largest brands in the outdoor industry to an advocacy coordinator.
That's a big jump, like salary wise, I'm guessing.
Yes. 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 And I again, I was able to do that because I had the support of my partner, but you know, I knew that within your career, you're always thinking like, oh, if I do this, then I'm going to go up this ladder. It's going to just be that. And I always go back to like the playground with my sons. Like, it's a jungle gym. Sometimes you're going to be up here. Sometimes you're going to be down here. Sometimes you're going to be up there. And you got to be okay with that and take those chances. And yeah, it was hard. It was really hard in the beginning, making the leap to advocacy, but the excitement of outdoor recreation, and again, seeing, rollbacks on public lands, seeing wildfires, again, take out communities here in the West and in California. It was that flow state where when I was advocating and organizing people to show up and meet with lawmakers, it was like, okay, this is where I'm supposed to be. This is really where I'm supposed to be.
I absolutely love the analogy of the jungle gym. I think that is perfect when you're imagining a jungle gym, and how, I mean, you don't really ever see two of the same. Go to a park and maybe this one has monkey bars, a couple poles to slide down, slide, or whatever, but they're almost like snowflakes. They're all so different. And I think that is, like I said, the perfect analogy to what we try to kind of share here, is that it's not linear, right? You're up, you're down, especially if you are going to switch careers or just life changes. You might be going on a path that's pretty smooth, going upward at a steady pace, and something happens in life. And that can either knock you back down, or it can actually lift you up, skipping several notches. It can go any which way, but we just peaks and valleys all through our lives and things. And like, that just gives me a great visual, this jungle gym, of how things can look, especially if you decide or you find something that you're passionate about and you want to go more into that. You feel deep down that you have something more to give. And when you're thinking about, you're in a corporate position, or any position, doesn't have to be corporate, but you're like looking at the next step, going up that ladder. Well, a lot of times there's a ceiling. And what happens when you reach that ceiling? You can stay there and plateau. Maybe you love it and you keep going. That's great. But I think for people like the three of us, we hit that. And when you don't see where our next step is, it might not be like necessarily, quote unquote, like the step up, but a step down in a totally different area. Because like, well, this is now where our like heart and souls need to be to build up something over here. And it doesn't mean that you're any less than, because, that imposter syndrome, I think, is it's hard for all of us. We go through these, like, I don't belong over here. So you built yourself up in this career in sales, and now you're going to advocacy without much in your background for that. Like, okay, well, what am I doing over here? Like, who's going to listen to me? Like, were those things going through your mind as you started in this new path?
Goes through my mind every day, every moment. I'm like, what, how, but again, and I think as a parent, let's just go back to the playground. When it really comes down to is how well you play in the sandbox. And it doesn't matter if you're in a sales room, sales floor, or the boardroom, or a member of Congress's office, is play well with others, show up, how I'm showing up for them. How can I make their job easier? If I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do something. And you gotta just play well and do it. And that's how these connections and relationships happen. And if I can help a lawmaker or a staffer do their job and sell something to their boss, a policy, I'm priceless. I'm valuable. I'm so valuable to them. And I felt that same way, like on a showroom floor, right? And doing a sell-in. If there was something that I could do to go advocate for my customers, or, that specialty retailer, like find some extra promotional money or some, just small things go so far. But again, where did I learn that? I learned that on the sales floor, right? Mm-hmm. I didn't learn that in a textbook. I learned it by being with people.
And that's such an important note, because there's so many things, school or certificates or like this traditional way of learning cannot teach us. We need the life experience. And it's always been a catch-22, graduating from college and trying to go get a job. It's like, well, you need job experience. Or even especially if you didn't have college, like a bachelor's on your resume, like how do you get past just what's on paper? Because so many of us have skills that we need to be able to show. And we need the chance to just get in the room and talk to somebody. Like, we need to be able to get that interview. And if you can land that interview, then people are more willing to take a risk on you. But getting past that point of just looking at what's on paper can be so hard. And that holds so many people back still to this day. And it's a shame. I see a lot of people kind of fighting for ways that we can change this and whatnot. I mean, as a hiring manager, I think you just have to have an open mind, but there has to be something that draws you into this person, like something on their resume. It's like, well, they did this. That's interesting. Like, how did it lead to here? And they've done this and that. But you don't know that how well someone can connect with a person. Like, you started on a retail floor, customer service, talking to people, being able to be friendly and make relationships. That leads into sales, like you can see how you explained it, like can lead into policy. You're having a real conversation with a person, a lawmaker, and kind of selling them on a policy where they're like, oh, you know what? That is pretty convincing. And it kind of goes back to this quote that I've been trying to live by recently as I'm forging my way through a freelancing kind of career. And I was like, you don't get what you don't ask for. So you have to be in the room or knocking on the doors or going to these meetings and telling like your side of things. Otherwise, the other side is the only one getting their voice out there. And that's where we get into trouble, especially in policy. So I'm wondering too how I think a lot of us these days are pretty discouraged by politics in all aspects. And it can be hard for a lot of us to feel like our vote matters. And what is like the most basic way you think that someone could get involved in their like community?
Yeah. Showing up, right? It's one of those things. If you're not at the table, you're on the menu, right?
Oh.
I always say that.
Love it.
Are you writing that one down, Taryn? It's and right now, there's something that everyone cares about, right? Mine is, I care about a safe and welcoming place for people to access nature. Like, that's what fires me up in the morning. That's why I get out of bed. That's why, we're here, starting a podcast very early. But there's things that people really are fired up about. Is it healthcare, women's reproductive rights? Is it the economy? Is it, name it, right? Workforce development, something, right? And the easiest way to get involved is find out who are those people in your community that are doing that work, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm just speaking from my vantage point, but I'm a young mother. My children go to school. I'm not working on gun reform, but I donate to Moms Demand Action because that's a nonprofit I care about, and I want to give those folks the agency to go do what they do, right? Mm-hmm. Just like people are like, I can't go to Congress and meet with people and talk about outdoor recreation on public lands and waters, but Outdoor Alliance is doing that. And so I'm going to skip that cup of coffee and I'm going to donate that $5 to them. And so really one of the things that I always say is, the next thing that you can give someone or an organization besides your love is your labor. And if there's a local nonprofit that's doing work that you love, it could be a stewardship, a dig day, or say that you're a graphic designer and could you help make them a poster? Do you have community space? Do you have a space that you could have them like give a panel discussion or do something? It's like, don't think of these traditional ways, right? Like you all have like a superhero power. Like Taryn, what you and Amber are doing right now, providing space and community for people to talk about what they do. Like offer that up to some of these people that are doing work in your community that you're passionate about, and empower them to do the work and support them.
Very good points of not looking at it in the traditional way. Like if you don't have money to donate, like you can't do anything. Because I think a lot of us feel that way. Like, I don't have money to donate here or there, and I really care about this organization. Well, there are some ways, and like labor being the next best thing, because labor is your time, and we all know time is money. Time is our most valuable asset, in my opinion. And I know that I went through plenty of years where there's things I wanted to do and volunteer for, and I was like, I can't volunteer because if I have the time to volunteer, I have the time to work and make more money, and I need the money, and not in a greedy way because I was never like more, but in the way of like, I've lived paycheck to paycheck my entire like life since I've had a job. So it was like, well, it'd be nice to not and have a little extra money, not worry about how that next bill is going to be paid. So I can pick up a shift and work. I just don't have the time to be able to volunteer is how I felt. And I've finally in the last couple years, been like, this is something I really, really care about. Like I'm gonna do it, whether it's volunteering or not, because I'm tired of not being involved in the things that I love because I feel like something like money is holding me back. And I know there are people out there who literally, single parents and things like may not have that time or energy or capacity to volunteer. And that is totally fine. At some point in your life, then maybe there will be. Or like you mentioned, little things of, can you pass out a flyer? Can you hang up a flyer at the school, at a coffee shop? Do you have a skill that would take you, 5 minutes to throw up a design? Do you have a platform like us here to share a story or something? And thinking of things in different ways is just what we really need to do, and not just everything's black and white. There's so much gray area in this world, and I think that's the problem with politics right now is it doesn't feel like there's any gray area. It feels very black and white, in that if you're on this side, you have to only vote for everything on that side, or you can only talk to these people about this thing, and we can't have these conversations, like open conversations, without feeling completely judged or something. And I want people to be able to talk about things, and I'm also trying to not be that person too of like judging, like, oh, you feel that way, like I'm not talking to you. Like, no, like why? What's the why? Your why behind it, and we can help each other understand each other. And when it comes to the outdoors, like we've mentioned, it doesn't matter what you vote over here, over there. Like, we all want to be outside. I'm outside right now at this like lovely rest stop that has a half-acre trail around it. He said too that people recreate in different ways. They stopped at these waterfalls in Idaho, and most people were families. It was a Sunday, and they're just bringing out picnics, and it felt rest stoppy. Like the restrooms were closed. It was just porta potties with flies everywhere. That was another story. But like that's what they were doing to get outside for the day with the family, was going to this parking lot where you had a great view of waterfalls if you walked down it, but that was their outside time. And to me, I'm trying to also get out of my bubble of what I think getting outdoors is, of you have to reach this 10,000 foot peak for it to be considered a hike. It's like, no, like people were like, yeah, we went on a hike today. We walked around a park. Like, then that's what it is for you. It's all relative experience. And the fact of the matter is we have to figure out how we can protect these spaces and make it accessible to people. So you started as a advocacy coordinator. What is your role right now with Outdoor Alliance? And also, because we've mentioned it obviously the last 35 minutes, Outdoor Alliance, can you explain to people what Outdoor Alliance is in their whole mission?
Yeah, absolutely. So Outdoor Alliance is the only nonprofit in the U.S. that unites the voices of the human-powered outdoor recreation community to take action to protect, conserve America's public lands and waters. So paddlers, climbers, mountain bikers, backcountry skiers, surfers, and mountaineers. And this is the thing about the coalition building and bringing different voices to the table, and that's kind of the power of advocacy, right? Because there are certain things that surfers and mountain bikers don't necessarily agree on, or like they're playing in that same space, but they could go, you know what, I would like our land managers, on our national forest, to have capacity to, to manage the land. Like there's people, ambassadors, doing interpretation and education. I like a good pit toilet. Like you were talking about parking lots and things like that. Like that's all about this experience, right? Like we want to enhance people's experience in outdoor recreation in the outdoors, but how are they going to get there? Parking pads. Like we can agree on things like that. We can agree that we like clean air. We like clean water. So what are we doing to protect those policies that are in place that ensure that we have clean air, we have clean water, and we're going to have that for future generations? So it's again, I feel so fortunate to be part of this team, because it's like, it is by design that these folks are together and have been the most effective advocates in the entire country. And it's because we're all over, the country. We're meeting with lawmakers, but again, we can find those commonalities that bring us together and work together to go advocate. And that's, again, through coordination and providing people space to go do that. And for me, I'm the California program director, and I can't think of, a more amazing opportunity for me to advocate for a state that I love and am so passionate about, but also too, California really leads the nation in these policies. So I'm in a very good position where I have access to lawmakers in Sacramento. So I see what's happening at the state level. And then also California, because we're such a big state, so much public lands and waters, so many people. Well, we have a lot of representation in DC. So I'm able to work with lawmakers that are in certain power seats within committees. At one time we had the majority, the minority speaker, the vice president, like all at the same time, who were all from California, and that was bipartisan, right? So it was like we were so well positioned to be able to advance conversations for the rest of the country on the things that we can agree upon, because of just being who we are. California being the 5th largest economy in the world.
Wow, in the world?
In the world. Yeah.
That's crazy.
So and again, just kind of getting back to it, using those numbers, that gets the attention. And I know that there comes, some folks are like, oh, California. But I mean, in this space and talking about public lands and waters, we have the most percentage than any other state. And also we have a lot of people, and we have a lot of decision makers. So, it does hold some weight and value when talking to folks.
Yeah, it sounds like it holds a lot of weight, honestly. I mean, we all know here in the United States how big California is. Look at a map, right? But thinking about it as the 5th largest economy in the world, like what you say to people, the meetings you go into, the businesses or lawmakers you talk to, I mean, it sounds like you have an incredible opportunity to reach them. And with California, like you said, kind of influencing a lot of other states, which in your opinion, listeners out there, could be good or bad. Like driving through Idaho, seeing signs of like, don't Californicate, you hear about it. And all these other states, like, we don't want to become California, yada, yada, yada. Again, that's a black and white view of their ideas of what California is doing overall as a state. We're talking today, outdoor specifically. Like, come on, I know all of these folks out here in this land that I'm driving through want the same things. We all want the same things. So it's like, can we just be on the same page about something here? Well, let's not look at it of like, oh, California wants to do this. Like, this is for everybody in the nation and anybody who comes through and wants to experience these lands. And you actually too were appointed by Governor Newsom himself for outdoor recreation, that his outdoor recreation commission for boating and waterways. Like, does that mean you were the lead person speaking on these issues?
Well, no, I was I was appointed, but it again, it's the state sets aside money for outdoor recreation. And so, again, California has a lot of coastline. The state of California is the largest landowner of coastal access. And again, those relationships. I had someone that was in the governor's office that I guess they liked what I was doing and asked me to help, support these efforts to direct funds. And it's an exciting role, and I have a great commission, but it's using these resources to enhance outdoor recreation and access in every part of the state. And I love this role because we're granting money in places that maybe don't get the most resources out of the state. It's rural communities, Colusa County, down by the Salton Sea, Modesto, and over investing in these communities for one access, but multi benefits. Is there, an opportunity to protect biodiversity and habitat, conservation, ensure that there's clean water, to these communities and these watersheds. And so, these multi benefits of, but outdoor recreation being what, got me into these decision-making roles, I want to make sure that it's benefiting the community, but having multi benefits.
That's amazing. Amber, I know. Oh, wait, I don't know if we can hear you talk. Oh, nope, I can't.
Oh, I've been muted this whole time. Whoopsies. I guess that's what the little red button on my mouthpiece means. Noted.
That's so funny. Well, I was curious, Amber, because I know that you are in the water business. So I know that you work on construction sites and you're maintaining the water safety through those sites and whatnot, right?
Used to.
Now
I do like paperwork and other things.
Right. But I mean, like,
still
that's
very
where you're
passionate about. Yeah.
Yeah. And
still very passionate.
Where does that do you feel that ties into like what you were doing in this kind of construction area and for jobs and whatnot? Like, did you see a lot of tie-in with the outdoor industry at all? Like, hear any kind of talk about this when you were there, of just protection of waterways overall when it comes to this kind of level? Or what kind of things were they talking about for when you were going through school of like protecting these waterways?
On construction sites, there wasn't a whole lot of talk about protecting a lot of anything.
Yeah.
Like most people were really annoyed when we would have to show up because of these laws that were protecting waterways to have to clean up water on construction sites. But from an environmentalist standpoint, I fully get it. But it's just hard bridging those gaps in situations like that where you have so many blue collar people. No offense. I am a blue collar person. Just trying to get by and make money, and you have this person coming on a construction site being like, okay, we got to wait to do anything before this water gets treated and sent down to the next place. In school was a whole different story. There was more like, when I hear you talking about protecting outdoor places in California, a lot of my mind goes towards like the agriculture places in California and how that all ties in, and how like there's not a whole lot of water in California to my knowledge. And I have heard that it's a very controversial topic in California, is the water rights and protecting water. And I believe that all ties in, but there really wasn't a whole lot of conversations happening on construction sites. But I'm hoping to change that. You know what I mean? As you said earlier, like climate change is at our table. It's knocking down our houses. It's at our front door. We have a whole new generation to protect, and things need to change drastically. And it's not going to be done the way that it has done in the past. You know, we got to bridge these gaps, and we got to have the conversations in places like construction sites and get people on a commonality. And I think that it's great what you're doing. And I also feel like, I don't know if you've had a lot of talk about like people in the outdoor industry as far as like hunting or foraging, or if you reach communities like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And we work with very closely with backcountry hunters and anglers. And again,
Okay.
it's because everyone's kind of part of this big tent, right? Motorized,
Yes.
non-motorized. I mean, I'd rather, ski up a hill or do uphill than, be on a snowmobile. But I know Taryn likes the snowmobile. So how she accesses nature, I can respect that too. And how I access it. So it's, again, this country has a long history of public lands and waters, and
yes,
and how people connect to the landscape. And so when people connect to the landscape through outdoor recreation, they're going to give a shit about protecting that, or spending resources to ensure that this place is safe and equitable, and people have a welcoming experience. And so, but getting back to your point about like these multi-benefits, and yes, we have a housing shortage, right? And but where do we find these commonalities where, we can have some space for housing, we can have some space for outdoor recreation, we can have some space for conservation, because this is all going to be part of it. And really bringing and I wanted to kind of bring this back, is anyone can be a part of this, right? This isn't like when I said earlier, like my friends are, we should make up where you went to law school so people know. And I mean, we say that jokingly, but like the power is kind of with the people, right? Lawmakers don't get their jobs unless they're reelected. So they need to hear from every industry, every sector, right? Because the people, and I'm just in a situation where I can have people that care about outdoor recreation, and I can organize them and get them to come to meetings, and we tell our stories and we talk about outdoor recreation. But again, this can be any topic, and it doesn't have to be 20, 30 people. It could be 2 or 3 people. So again, Amber, what you care about and what your industry or your sector or your employer cares about, well, go exercise your civic engagement. Go meet with those lawmakers. They have to meet with you. How they get their jobs is because of you. You pay taxes. You vote. Make sure that your voice is being heard. And I'll kind of round this out is, in this work, I always, again, I don't care what you believe, just, you got to do it. You got to do it. I mean, this is a democracy, and a democracy is fragile. And when democracy is used is when the people are out there in the front. And I see all of you heading your heads nodding, so I love it. But so if you're not out there doing something, and sharing your story and what you care about, there's someone that has a completely different thought or
perspective,
mm-hmm. And they're bringing their friends out there. So by you just sitting here on the sideline and not going and doing that meeting or showing up at that town hall or writing that letter, you're doubling the power of someone else that has a totally, completely different position than you that you're fired up about. So again, it can be anything. It can be the economy, healthcare, public lands and waters, outdoor recreation, housing, development. If you're not out there doing something, you're doubling the power of someone else. And again, I'm in a position where, I can bring some climbers and paddlers and surfers together, and it's not a lot. It does not take a lot. It takes 2 or 3 people, but people, constituents.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I have a little local story of some of my crust punk buddies who were advocating for a skate park in Tacoma, and they won. They got it. They put themselves out there, and they got their little crew, their community, and they showed up to all these places that you wouldn't see a crust punk. You know what I mean? We've got to start breaking down all these stereotypes and barriers, and it just has to happen.
Well, and that's what I love about this conversation, because like I mentioned earlier of how a lot of us are discouraged, our voices aren't being heard. And I think this conversation it definitely helps me kind of reignite that, no, you're absolutely right, Katie. If I'm not saying anything, then the people who have the opposite views of me, which they're entitled to have, are saying it. And my voice needs to be heard, even if it's 1 in a million in a crowd, if it's 1 in 10 in a crowd. If you really truly care about something, then speak about it. And there are plenty of easy ways to do it. One of the, better things that happened out of 2020 were the fact that a lot of things became available virtually. Maybe this was beforehand and I was just so out of touch with things like town council that I didn't realize. They could have been web streaming for a very long time, but I know a lot more things are available virtually than they ever were before 2020. And I know our town council meetings in Truckee are live streamed. So you can look up when your town council meetings are. You might be able to watch them online and at least just know what's going on, hear the conversations. It's as easy as leaving a comment too, right? These are a couple of things that Katie and I talked about offline last week. There are really easy ways that you can show up without having to be there in person for 4 hours and, raising your hand and speaking publicly. That might not be your thing. There are places though that you can leave your comments and get your voice heard, and the littlest things can make the difference, even when it feels like, in the end, someone has a overarching say, and your vote didn't really count or whatnot. It does. Your voice matters. I think we all need to remember that. Like I said, we only have, it's hard to believe, a couple weeks until voting, and there's just so many things that we do need to vote on. It's not just one thing, it's a presidential election. So I think all our minds go there, right? But there's so many policies and bills and things that are unique to wherever you live. And yeah, that takes some time and research for some of these. But again, if you really care about it, make your voice heard, do what you need to do. I mean, I don't have any political experience whatsoever, but for the last few years, I'm I am gonna get on town council. I will be this fucking mayor. I am so over shit that's happening. And I feel like none of these people really have experience either. So what's holding me back from being the one who's oh, well, how about I come in here and make the decisions based off of my business or the way I live my life? Because that's how you all seem to be doing it. But it's just like I said,
that, yeah. I'll vote. I'm on. Yeah.
You got my vote.
Yeah. I'll be that campaign sign. Yes, let's do it.
Absolutely.
Passion and personality goes a very, very long way.
I mean, that's what a lot of folks in politics have, is the charisma, right? And that's what gets you. That's what hooks people. And again, this is what we talked about, like so many people who are denied opportunities for jobs because they can't get to the in-person point-to-point connection. You know, they're trying to get past this what's on paper thing, but it is, we connect to the person. It's been shown so much in the last 8 years that people connect to the person, not what their record shows. And we all connect to different people, different personalities, obviously. So I have to mention this because this just sounds absolutely amazing. That's recently happened with you, Katie, is getting accepted into the Obama Foundation's leadership program. Before we run out of time here, can you tell us what that's about?
Again, how did I get here? Right? Like I was just a girl that was fired up that my back tour, my backcountry skiing tour, road, I couldn't access it. Right. And it's just the ripple effects of being bold and taking chances. And again, someone who had worked for President Obama nudged me and said, there's this opportunity to connect with change makers in every corner of the country, every part of the country. And these folks are working on education, police reform, gun violence, food insecurity, healthcare. And here I am, the girl from, that lives in Truckee, California, talking about mobilizing my friends, outdoor paddlers and climbers and backcountry skiers to go take action on climate. And they bought it. I fooled them. So they, but yeah, thanks, Karen. It's changing my life. It's changing my world. It's again, being bold and taking chances and knowing that, like, man, I never dreamed that I would be in this position, and here I am, and I'm not going to take it for granted, right? Like, I want to go make sure that we have access to clean air, clean water, and, other folks can experience seeing alpenglow on Mount Rainier when it peaks out, for future generations.
I love that. You heard it here, folks. Be bold and take chances. Before we get out of here, though, Katie, I would love if you could just leave the audience with any kind of nugget you have, whether that's just like another kind of source of inspiration, or just anything left that we haven't talked about that you need to mention real quick, whether that's where to find you, Outdoor Alliance, any nugget that you have for people that we didn't get the chance to mention.
Gosh, there were so many nuggets. I think I got them all, but your voice matters. And Taryn and Amber underscored that, right? And don't think you have to be in a position like I am. I work with federal lawmakers. Things move at a glacial speed, but like, if you're fired up about something in your local community, write a letter, go meet that lawmaker for coffee. Because you just don't know the ripple effects of what happens, with those connections. And then finally, make a plan to vote. November 5th is coming up. It's a Tuesday. Just make sure you have a plan, do your research, and, show up. It's going to be an important election for everyone.
Yes. Very important.
Katie, thank you so much for joining us. I know we covered quite a bit. I always love to cover the basis of how people got to where they were. We went over a lot, you guys, in outdoor, what Katie does in outdoor policy and just ways you can get involved. And this is like the very, very, very tip of an iceberg conversation, which the first conversation with somebody always is, because we cover so many different things. But if you folks out there have specific questions or anything, as you know, don't hesitate to reach out to us. We're always more than willing to pass these questions on to our guests. Like, we will ask Katie something directly. If you, like I said, if you have a specific question about outdoor policy or anything, let us know. And just reach out with your feedback at all. And thank you, everybody out there, for listening. You can find more information on the Outdoor Alliance in the show notes. We will have all the links for like their website, Instagram, some social platforms that you can follow them and learn more about this nationwide organization. And Katie, thank you again so much.
Thank you, Taryn. Thank you, Amber. And everyone go out, have a great day, and I'll see you guys soon.
Bye, everybody out there. We hope you enjoyed this episode and would do us a huge favor, since we don't have any sponsors or anything like that, and would rate and review us on whatever platform it is you use, Spotify, Apple, Stitcher, whatever it is. And if you're listening and downloading just through the website, tearingituppodcast.com, leave comments. We'll definitely engage back with you. And on social media right now, we're just on Instagram. Tearing It Up Podcast is the handle. Like the post, share the post, comment on the post, whatever it is you got. Show us your love so we just stay relevant and show up in the rankings at all. So again, rate and review, please. And we'll see you next time. Thanks.